call the meeting to order. If you are able, please rise and remove cover. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, approval of the April meeting agenda. Are there any changes? Hearing none, I will look for a
Move approval.
Brian, second on Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda. Are there any changes, questions? Hearing none, I look for motion.
Move the motion.
First by Peter.
I'll second.
Second by Dalton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sheriff's report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
March proved to be a busier month than last year's March. We had 175 CADs generated for the sheriff's office versus 140 last year. Just some notable ones. The theft that's listed on there, that ended up after investigation for a few days determined to be a civil issue between two associates. So it's not exactly a theft. The assault was between two juveniles and the one was charged for that crime. Drugs, narcotics, that case was essentially at a group home within the township. There was suspected drugs located and that was confiscated by the sheriff's office and disposed of. They weren't able to determine ownership of that. Property damage, one of them ended up being a camper being delivered to a house by a delivery company and they clipped the side of the garage. So nothing intentional there. Property found ended up being a muzzle loader. Actually, that was located by the entrances to the state forest that I don't know how long that had been there. Hopefully not since hunting season, but that was taken for safekeeping by the sheriff's office. Motor vehicle property damage accident, there was no kind of on the roadway. Both property damage accidents occurred in parking lots, one at Ann Lake and one at Getaway Bar, just kind of cars backing into each other. And there is a vandalism CAD on the bottom, and that ended up just being a house that was egged, suspected by juveniles, so no real damage. Otherwise, yeah, with the weather kind of warming up, things are picking up. There's definitely more activity in the state forest, so we have an increased presence there. And then just to touch up on the road, 233rd Avenue that we talked about briefly last time with the logging trucks. After further investigation and talking to the state, essentially they located an agreement between the township in 2018 and the state where the road was constructed to 10 tons. So I have passed that on to Shelley, and then with the recommendation that the township resolution would be updated for both 233rd and 168th Street coming in and out of the state forest. That's otherwise it. Any questions or concerns, things I can pass on to the guys and increase the patrol or anything like that?
No?
I just got one thing I'd like to say. Had a medical issue with my family this last month, and I want to thank you guys for being out there. It's quite a scary ordeal, and
Yeah.
I'd like to also thank Deputy Casey for keeping me informed on everything. My mother had a medical episode in Zimmerman, and she, grace of God, she's with us today, and with the help of you guys and the ambulance crew and the helicopter and everything.
Yes,
Just-
I'll pass that along to Deputy Casey.
Yep,
and let her
pass
know.
that along and tell her I'm grateful for her communication and everything, and even you guys, I'm
Yeah,
happy that you guys are out there doing what you do, because I sure as heck couldn't do it.
yeah, appreciate that.
So, that's all I got.
In regard to that 10-ton road, is our map
Or weight limit map up to date?
The weight limit
Kind of
map, I
those two
think,
areas.
the weight limit map is, I think is only recording it as a 9-ton road. It's not recording it as a 10-ton road.
Well, should we, that
Yeah,
have,
we'll have
but
to
can't
update
change that.
Yeah, we do have the, that coming up on our roads.
Yeah, and that resolution did list it as a 5-ton even on
I know.
the resolution, so some inconsistencies there, but yeah, that document that I passed along, it is constructed to a 10-ton, which essentially is there's no weight limit on the road, or it far exceeds any semi-truck weight, so.
I think if nothing else came out of this, between my communications with Trent and with Petrosky, and then giving me the direct line to the people at the DNR.
Yep.
I mean, we finally got, you were here last time, it's like, we don't even know who we're supposed to be talking to.
Yeah.
We
it's
now,
connected.
pulled that in tight when
Yeah.
Petrosky and Trent got a hold of me to just send me all the stuff, so we did get that done, so now we have a really good, we have a question, we know who to go to.
Yeah,
So,
perfect. Good to
that
hear.
worked out really well.
And then also to brush up, I had followed up with State Patrol, commercial truck enforcement trooper, and he did say that the aprons leading off of the road, such as the one that has those indentations that he photographed, those are not considered part of the road actually, and they're considered to be, they're not packed with the same substrate, so they're called sacrificial, and they're meant to be kind of cut off and relayed as needed, so it's, he said that technically those don't even count as the roadway, those little aprons that come off, so just food for thought too, I didn't realize that, but yeah, part of that might be that crater of gravel that's washed away from traffic, and it might help if that was kind of backfilled and packed in too, just so there wasn't the change in grade. Cool,
All right,
thanks guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, number 5, open forum. Is there anybody here to speak for open forum? Is there anybody here to speak for open forum?
Greg Felber, 25409 189th Street. I'm here just real briefly to talk about the veterinary ordinance. The planning commission or the planning and zoning department keeps trying to cram this thing into a 5-acre property. It doesn't fit into a 5-acre property under any circumstances. One of the things they're looking at, it could still be done on a 5-acre property if the animals don't stay overnight. Animals in a veterinary hospital or veterinary clinic where the animals come in, if you bring in an animal that's injured or that's colicking, it's going to end up staying there. That's not a realistic idea. There's going to be more than just a vet and a vet tech there. There's going to be acupuncturists, there's going to be chiropractors, there's going to be farriers that are going to be part of it. You're going to have 5 to 6 different professionals on any given day at an actual in-person clinic. I mean, I've hauled my horses to a lot of them. I've hauled other people's horses in for emergencies. And one other thing, when you try to cram something like this into a 5-acre property, you end up using so much of the property that, like at our house today, where the neighbors have removed over 300 feet of the grass and trees that used to be next to our house, I had columns or clouds of sand 20 feet high blowing across the border into my yard today. A combination of dry sand and dry manure from pens that hadn't been cleaned for a long time. That's what you're going to be doing to the neighbors if this is authorized. So I think it's really important for the board to tell the Planning and Zoning Commission to keep this on 10 acres, the same as the neighboring counties have. Thank you.
Anybody else for open forum? Third call for open forum. Moving on. Item number 6, approval of meeting minutes. We'll start with, you guys want to do them together or do you want to do them separately? Separately? All right, item A, March monthly meeting. Is there any changes? Hearing none. Paul?
I'll second.
And then second by Dalton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, abstain. Did you get that, Shelley? Okay. Item B, Annual Local Board of Appeal and Equalization. Is there any changes?
Move to approve.
Okay, Dalton, motion.
Second.
Second by Brian, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, regular business. All right, item A, the handyman services contract renewal. It is in our packet. Did everybody have a chance to look over this? Are there any questions, concerns?
Any changes in price, or is he gonna hold the price for?
Daryl, would you like to, same thing, everything's the same.
Everything's the same.
Okay, so there's nothing that's different.
Move for approval of renewal.
Second.
Okay, Paul first, Brian second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Snow removal contract, we're in the same situation. Any changes, Daryl? No changes?
Changes.
Move approval.
Brian first,
Second.
second by Dalton, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. C, Gopher Bounty Resolution Information.
We get reimbursed $1 from the county, do we? 'Cause ours is $2, isn't it?
It was,
They changed it,
We changed it to what?
$1,
the county did.
county did.
But our.
But ours is still 2, isn't it?
The Orrock is $2 or $1?
$2.
$2.
That's what I thought.
So do we want to change ours to match the Sherburne County, what we're getting paid, or do we not care?
Nobody's gonna get rich on $2.
All right.
I was gonna say we can get rid of some gophers.
I think it's more work if we were to change the thing than it was
Exactly.
to give away a couple bucks.
We had one person in last year.
There's one person last year.
Okay, so then why don't we,
I'll move to approve. If there is.
there
same.
was nothing,
It's just
Yeah.
it's just information. Right, it was for discussion.
Perfect.
Okay, so moving past that. Item D, Healing Heartbeats through Hoofbeats. They are here. They are looking for let me see here, your application for a gambling permit. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? The Board of Directors, Sue Jones with the Board of Directors, requesting approval for exempt gambling premise permit for bingo and raffle events at the Getaway Bar. There's 5 dates. The application was in our packet.
I think this is for bingo only. The application says bingo only. Now, I'll recommend approval.
Okay, just for clarification, it is bingo only? Okay, so it is bingo only. Does anybody have anything they would like to add to that? Any questions or concerns? They're here, they're willing to answer any questions? No? Okay. Then, Brian moved to approve. Can we get a second on that? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we want to pause for a moment? Let me sign what I need to and we can get them out of here?
That's fine, yeah.
All right.
You want to say what it's done?
Yep. We've got sheet in my packet here. Do you have it there, Shelley? Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me get that done. And so we're gonna pause for a second. We can get this signed and we can get you guys out of here. You don't have to sit for the rest of this. Shelley, let's get one. So we're gonna make a copy of that. You can meet our treasurer back at the office and then she'll give you what you need to move it.
Do we need to have this signed as well, because this will come with this?
I've got that one here signed.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to get that done. Okay, moving on. Item E, Ann Lake update. Okay. So Paul and I did meet with the members of the Ann Lake Board, as was directed by this board to work on an interim agreement. During that meeting, it was made known that they don't want an interim agreement. They want a long-term agreement. So, they wanted to meet with their board, and get something to us for our board meeting. I think that there's a lot here. I'm not sure we're ready to make a decision on all of this in such a short amount of time. Usually we get the packet a week in advance. We've had a day to look at this. And we knew that, Paul and I knew that they weren't gonna be able to get it to us.
And that what they're asking for really reflects our old agreement. Why don't we
Absolutely.
just reestablish our old agreement?
Well, we still have the DNR on the table.
Well, if we're serious about this, DNR's out. If it's a good way to resolve this is reinstate our old agreement and life goes on for everybody.
How do we know that doesn't happen in a year again? And we're right back where we're at. Okay, excuse me, we don't have any from the,
I don't, they're asking for a 10 to 20-year agreement. That's not gonna happen next year. I don't, you know, we've had this agreement for what, 10, 15 years, the old one? It's worked fine. Just reestablish it and life goes on. Life isn't this complicated. The only thing I would, you know, they're suggesting here that we don't mention the building. I think
I can't do that.
for future boards, I think we'd want to recognize that the Ann Lake Association paid and built the building with our approval to put it on our property. That takes care of a lot of the issues that nobody understood here a couple months ago.
I don't have a problem with it being a longer term. I'm not sure that we want to say 10 years or to 20 years, only because this board probably won't be here. One, as an example, I wasn't even aware of this, and I've been on the board now 6 years. And so I think it's important that we have intervals in here where everybody is aware of it. And if there's concerns one way or the other, I do like the idea of what they had added, dealing with the complaints. And so everybody is basically on board as far as understanding what's going on there. So that's my concern, is the length of time being more than 1 year, because I can see what they're saying. They have, we know, repaired the boat ramp.
I recall the existing agreement has a year's notice to get out of it.
90 days.
Is it 90 days? All right, well, we can change that to a year, but anyway, that's.
I think,
If we're going this route too, the one thing I'm seeing is that we have liability insurance. The one thing I'd like to see is insurance on the building. And the reason I say this is if it goes to disrepair or whatever else and the agreement breaks, then we are responsible for getting rid of that building, same as the house. So I'd like to see that on there. So if something does happen to that building, there's insurance on it to replace it. So if we do have to take this back over, we are not getting a dilapidated building.
Well, there's another way around it. If the Lake Association holds us harmless and indemnifies us for all events in the building, then we don't care.
The reason I care is what if it gets burnt down or something?
They're going to indemnify and hold us harmless, so we don't care.
But I'm saying if the agreement terminates later on, then we have a pile of rubble sitting there that we have to get rid of. I agree that we're not held liable, so I think that needs to be in there. But
Yeah, to me, that's not a big issue to me.
no, he has a valid point. But I think that that's the concern too, is we can't get insurance on the building. We don't own it,
Well, actually, we do own it.
not the building.
Yes, we do.
It's on our property, it's
So it's
essentially ours.
essentially we do. Essentially what happened is, if you look at the permit, we pulled the permit. Orrock Township pulled the permit. They donated the supplies and the work to put the building up on our property. So we own the building.
But after so many years, why do we care? And I understand the insurance issue, but after this many years,
Here's I have been very vocal with the Ann Lake group about this. I am opposed to giving it back to them. And I will tell you why. We had not planned any of our expenses that we have had to incur with this, because we didn't see it coming. I think that there will be future problems that we will be told we have to incur and we have to pay for. I don't think that it's the best interest for us to be in this agreement. It doesn't, if the DNR takes the property, they still have all the access to the property. They're not losing anything by us not being liable, responsible financially, or anything else. You know, we knew about the toilet issue. We had had communication with Sherburne County on this. They were giving us some lenience to work on it, to get it taken care of. But they decided to push the issue and call us in. Gave us a 7-day turnaround. So what's to say something doesn't happen and our backs are up against the wall and next time it's not just $5,000? Because we're not getting all our money back and that's going to come back later, and Commissioner Farrell is going to speak to that. So I am not of the opinion that we're not getting anything by doing this. As a matter of fact, we're only opening ourselves up to stuff with this. If we turn it to the DNR, we're out. And we have no liability, financially or otherwise. And as a township as a whole, we did have the second letter that came in here. Right before, everybody has it, Shelley put it in, none of us saw it till 5 minutes ago.
what is it? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's on your table right there.
No, I didn't print it out for, I didn't print it out for everyone.
Oh.
You'll have to share.
There you go. And then there's another one that we had gotten prior to that came in.
Yeah, I remember one prior.
Another one came in, yeah. But I don't see in this agreement where we get anything. All I see is potential problems and liability. And you look at the boat landing, 5-6 cars tops at any given time can be in that parking. We're taking on all of this for 5 or 6 cars at a time that can go onto that lake. That is it's not a great return on investment.
So one question, if it goes to the DNR, what happens to the building? Do we know yet?
That's,
I'm curious, do we know it all, one way or another? Does DNR
The
take
only thing I
ownership?
have is that one message which I read at the last meeting that would say that they are willing to talk with the Ann Lake about the building.
Because I'm assuming DNR is not gonna maintain the aerator or anything like that.
But we don't either.
I know, but that's where they store the aerator, is in the shed.
Mhm.
The dock was in the shed too, or it goes next to it?
Well, the DNR was considering another dock.
they have the picnic tables.
Yeah, but so that goes in, the dock would go to the DNR anyway, or they would get their own dock, whatever the case.
Yeah.
That's not our dock.
I know, but
No.
the DNR would handle the dock, so that doesn't need to be stored in that building. But they have the picnic tables, they have the aerator.
That's about it.
But if that lake needs an aerator, it behooves us to keep it indoor somewhere, and that's the logical place.
And that might be the discussion that we have with the
And that's
DNR
what I'm wondering.
until a different, something else could be
Mhm.
figured out. Under no circumstances are we going to say, get your stuff out.
Mhm.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We can come up with something smaller that, or some other kind of agreement. But if we're looking at the township as a whole, as a whole, it doesn't, taking on that kind of liability and that kind of potential problems for 4,000 people that are in this township, when there is a limited amount of people that can actually use it at any given time, given the parking, other than the people that live around the lake, I just don't think that's a good return on investment.
I agree, but I'm curious about the building. I'm also curious about if the DNR owns the landing or is responsible for it, can there be a donation box there? And those donations are intended to use for lake treatment, because the DNR won't do that either. So that again is gonna be the lake association. So can that be a kind of tandem thing where they maintain the landing, but the lake association still has access to the building and they can take donations to handle the water treatment? So then we're kind of getting best of both worlds there. We have someone handling the water, you have someone handling the boat launch. And
Well-
it's neither one's us.
Potentially,
But here, the Lake Association is gonna do both. They're proposing they do both.
Unless they run out of money again and it comes back to us.
Then we're back to this step.
Then we come back to it later.
As far as return, I think that's pretty, there are more than 6 people that use that lake.
no, not at any given time can you have more than 6 people there.
Parking,
They park all over the place.
Excuse me,
parking.
we're taking care of that. We're working on that, because those roads are gonna get, we're working on the roads, that's gonna tear up that whole thing here pretty soon.
But there's still,
I'm just saying, I don't think it's fair that I would not tell you how I feel. I told it to their faces at our meeting, and I'm saying it publicly. And if, you know, I'm not gonna say one thing to their faces and one thing in public.
What you say has to be accurate.
Excuse me, ma'am, I said, we're not having any comment from anybody else except the people on the board. And like I said, I'm not sure that with all of this, that we're gonna do anything tonight.
well,
We got this
that's
yesterday.
what's in the letter, too. But I think it was stated that the board was leaning or had directed us to look for an interim. And I did not, and I looked at it, I did not see the board directing us to look at interim contract.
Actually, we just read.
I know.
But,
I'm just saying is that this was a proposal that they are now making. There are some things that they still want to talk about. But is the board, if the board made that decision, and that's with your opinion, but that wasn't mine, is the board willing to seriously look at a longer-term agreement? Because their concern is, well, they could do these things, and then a year from now, sorry, we're gonna sell it or return it back to the DNR, and they're without.
but they're not without. They're not going to be restricted from using the landing. All it's doing is taking our liability and our responsibility away.
We don't
Should be
know
the
what they're
DNR.
talking about with the building. I still contend that is gonna be a concern for the DNR.
Well, I think that we table this, we go get a legal opinion on who owns the building, and let's figure, and if that's everybody's concern, and I'll get in touch with our attorneys, I will get in touch with Mitch, I will talk to planning and zoning, I will get all that, and let's resolve the building issue.
But we're back to the issue here. Is the board willing to look for a long-term agreement with the Lake Associate Improvement Club?
And that's the discussion that we're having.
what I just
And
said.
I would make a motion that we are not looking for a long-term agreement, and we table this until we can get further information. Retract that. I make a motion that we table this until we can get the decision around who owns the building, and that will answer most of Dalton's questions.
I was gonna say, because I'm curious about the DNR stuff, but I think that's step one.
Okay, so I make a motion that we table this until we talk to our attorney and zoning and planning and zoning to get the building issue resolved.
I'll second.
Talk to planning and zoning.
And our attorneys to look at the old contracts. Because planning and zoning were the ones that sent us the building permits in the first packet of stuff that we got back here, Paul, from zoning. And then we had letters from, at that time, Kathy Haney
Okay,
and
great.
Public Works and all of this.
Yes.
This packet is what I'm talking about, and the permit. Here's the permit. So we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do we at the same time want to reach out to the DNR preemptively, ask some of those other questions? Regardless of who owns the building, we know the DNR doesn't own it. Are they willing to do any kind of agreement? where
Well,
they
I
take just
read
the-
that, you were not at the last meeting, but I had read a message from my phone during the meeting from Tim, who said they were willing to do that. He also has many people above him that have to tell him.
Okay, but there's at least an appetite
The
to split.
conversation has been had, and it's been continued to have, and in the, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was that they were willing to talk and work with the Ann Lake Association.
Okay, perfect.
He said the number one thing of short-term was the outhouse, short-term was the ramp, long-term was the outhouse. I let him know we've already gotten that taken care of, and that there would have to be ongoing discussions with Ann Lake Association.
Okay, perfect.
Those were the three things in that. All right. Moving on. Consider, oh wait, back up. Commissioner Felber,
Question.
you asked,
Was this tabled as part of your previous motion? Do you want to have a motion to reopen it, or is this a separate agenda?
this is a separate,
Okay. All right, just making sure I know where we're at. You want me
3-2.
want me to talk about that right now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
He was,
Greg Felber, Commissioner, Sherburne County. So I sit on the board, the park board. I'm not on the park board. I go to the park board meetings. I'm not a voting member of the park board. So when this came before the park board, their discussion was, I filled them in on the background, the people there that were familiar with the landing didn't know that was an outhouse.
Commissioner Felber, just for clarification, this is in regards to our application to have the $5,000 reimbursed
Yep, just what's up
for
here.
the outhouse.
Yep,
For people who can't read it,
Park fund?
through the park fund.
from the park funds. Which is $1,200 that's collected from every property that's built inside of Orrock Township. So the people in the park board that were familiar with it didn't realize that those were actually not private property up on top of the hill, so they were a little confused as to where we had an outhouse. But the way they looked at it, what you actually got, the $1,700 out of the $5,000 that they asked for, was for what was considered an improvement, and that was basically for filling in the hole, leveling it off, and making it look better. Any other funding that would come from them would have to be something else that's an improvement. There would have to be something added to the park space to get it. So like funding for additional gravel, maintenance, those types of things, you don't get that. Long story short, at the board meeting where I did not vote on this item because of my connection to the issue that's going on, it was brought up that the county attorney 100% agrees with their decision in this matter. So just for kind of future reference, you're not going to be able to get anything unless you're adding something to that space as a park, is to be able to get money from these funds. You can always apply, but the way the park board reads the statute was really broken down pretty well by one of the park board members is a full-time worker for the Wright County Park, so he's really good on park maintenance issues, And they broke it down really, really well, and that was with the $1,700 that you guys got. And
So what you're saying is that adding gravel isn't adding value?
you know, that would, well, anything that would seem like it's maintenance, like pumping the, you know, because there was, in your request, there was money for pumping it out and cleaning up the actual outhouse. That was considered all maintenance. Even taking apart the outhouse is considered maintenance because it needed to be done. So the only thing that they gave you the money for was for basically filling in the hole and leveling the ground, because that's an improvement.
So any kind of demolition, that's never gonna get us any money?
No. And,
Okay.
things like, you know, yeah, I mean, fixing the ramp, fixing the parking lot, those types of things. You know, the only thing that would be, it would be something like if you were to put up a shelter on the property, or work with the DNR to put up what I'm working on a different property, or trying to work on a different property, get a property for it, would be like a ADA compliant fishing pier. Those are the kind of things that you could possibly get into a park fund thing for. You know, there's no space on that current property to put up like a shelter, but those kinds of things have gotten park money in the past, putting up a shelter, expansion of the park, those types of things. Anything that would be maintenance, you're not gonna be able to get any additional funding for, from that particular fund. There are other funds, but that particular one is definitely dedicated towards park improvements or adding things to a park.
So in short, don't apply for the ramp funding?
Well, you can apply. I mean, it never hurts to fill an application, but, you know, I would say it's unlikely.
I'm sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay. He's done.
We did apply for that, and Gina said that we were not yet.
Okay.
All right.
So that much, yeah, because they must have run that by the attorney, and so that was done, as a done deal then, yeah.
Okay.
So,
But here is proof that we are getting our $1,700. All right, well, I'm glad we got that. Did you need something from, do we need anything else? We're all good?
It's just information.
Okay. Moving on, item F, sirens, discuss. So, I know Paul and Brian were at the SCAT meeting on last Wednesday, where we had a pre-meeting at 6 o'clock with Bruce Meshalt and Dan about the sirens. One of you two want to start this? Since I was chairing that meeting as well, and how did you see that as a participant in that meeting?
Well, I think the future of the sirens is probably limited. We can't get spare parts anymore. I mean, you can scavenge other sirens for parts, but they don't make new parts anymore. So I think it's a matter of you put a knife in it today or tomorrow. But I think the future for the sirens is coming to an end. The question is really going to be what direction we go. I know they recommended either IPAW or the HyperReach. The IPAW is a federal program that works through your cellular phones. In fact, they both do. My experience with that technology is I've seen the best and I've seen the worst. And when you need it, it ain't going to be there. I know. Back in '91, we had ice storms in southern Minnesota. That was a 2 or 3 county area. Phone system went down because everybody's trying to call everybody. Friends in California, when they have a major earthquake in California, the phone system goes down. The difference here in Minnesota is we're looking at a tornado, and I think that's kind of the emphasis. It's a much smaller area, so the chances of the phone system going down is probably pretty slim, although it's always gonna be a potential problem.
The other thing I'd say there is, that's a good point about it going down, but is it gonna go down before the tornado or after? Because it's like before, there's not as
It's
many
probably
people.
gonna go down after when
Yeah.
people start calling.
Exactly,
start-
letting them know, hey, I'm in danger, I need help, or hey, I'm okay. But beforehand, I don't think there's gonna be a spike in activity, so the alerts go through.
But it will go down at some point in
Yeah.
time. Now the alerts go out and, you know, the people have phones nearby, or they next to their bed at night when they go off, who knows? But
There is
I
a
think-
cost to us keeping them.
keeping these sirens, yeah, I take public safety first, knowing that if we keep the sirens, it's gonna cost us some money, but in the long run, they're not gonna be there. I mean, you know, whether it be 2 years, 5 years, their history is coming to an end.
And when they go down, as you said, then we gotta find parts from the other ones or store the parts with the other townships are choosing not to use their sirens or keep them. But then we also have to pay for the decommission of them, where the county now, if we go do this and notify the county by
July 1st.
July 1st, then they will take care of the decommissioning. Things other that were in the literature that were, I don't remember being mentioned at our meeting, was that these are also, you can hook them right up to your Alexa and other speakers and systems that you may have in your home, which solves some of the concerns about, you mentioned the phone next to your bed or anything like that with Alexas and things that are going on.
Are you talking about hyperreach and pause?
Yes, yes, there's an awful lot there that can be expanded into your own home
Yeah.
besides just your mobile telephone. So yes, but
Back to Brian's
I
point
think
though,
it's got a short life for
Mhm.
us.
back to Brian's point though, that assumes that they have internet connection. So if internet connection goes down at any point, your Alexa and everything's not gonna work either.
I will tell you from, again, all situations are different.
Mhm.
2 years ago, when multiple hurricanes hit the Gulf Coast of Florida, Greg and I, that's where we go. Greg and I were in constant communication with people on the ground whose houses were flooded to the ceilings, needing rescue, and we were coordinating with boat captains, getting them to addresses. So, the entire island went underwater. We still had internet. They still had internet. They were, whether it was Skylink or whether it was whatever. Now, that's not about sirens, but I'm talking about that ability to communicate.
The amount of data that we use today has the industry has facilitated so it doesn't go down.
Yeah. I do think there is
There's a risk.
there's a risk. The other point about these sirens is that just because if we choose not to participate, it doesn't mean they turn them off January 1. They're gonna let them run their life. And then,
Because the county's gonna take them down themselves.
but they're not gonna hit the switch.
Yeah.
If we say no to the blue, we go back to one more.
And we pay to have them decommissioned whenever they go down.
Right, so if we choose to keep them, the other one more, that one. Okay, so the light blue is ours, for those that are, or greenish, seafoam green, whatever,
Depending which screen.
depending on which screen you're looking at. So our coverage, and we talked about this even that night, we're covered like 2 or 3 times over, a couple times. We could choose to only take 3 and get rid of the other ones by looking at where the circles interact or interface.
I do want to call out, if I'm doing my math right, it's a little over 18,000 a year to maintain those 6, based on the twice a year trip and the battery stuff that lasts 3
We
years.
got 6 of them.
We got 6, that's what I'm saying. For the six
Minimum
together,
$12,000 a year, yeah.
for the 6 together, it's just over 18 grand a year. So,
We have to have a decision by July 1st, and I don't expect that you guys commit. I like both sides of what I'm hearing.
do we have a cost on like HyperReach or iPod? or
Free.
anything? They're both free?
Both free.
They're both free. You have to apply for the app for the HyperReach. The iPod is,
It's like an
already
Amber,
available.
That's an Amber
alert,
alert.
yeah. But the HyperReach, it's not us applying for it, it's each individual has to go to the App Store, download it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's communication that we'll need there.
Actually, when Ben was here at our January meeting, I'm sorry, soon to be sheriff, Ben, was here, he actually was launching HyperReach at that point. So when you go back to our January
Mhm.
minutes,
I remember, I didn't realize it was the same one, I guess.
That's
but-
what it is,
Okay.
yeah. But yes, and there is not going to be, there was some discussion about someone thought that if we're gonna pay, you can do a monthly maintenance fee or there's different fees you can have. We would have to establish our own accounts with a maintenance company. The county's not going to, we're not gonna just write a check to the county. Now, the SCAT did agree that we could do it through SCAT, and we would have, everybody would just pay SCAT, and SCAT would pay one person. If we chose to participate, if we have enough people that choose to participate, then Francine and myself and the townships that are wanting to participate are going to set up a JPA, Joint Powers Agreement, so that SCAT can pay for their maintenance. Because we think it would be cheaper to have a collective,
Do we have any idea how cheap?
well, the Sherburne County's pricing was,
Over the 7 years, I think you mentioned that that's their average.
yeah,
What's here is the average, you mean?
That's their average over
Could
7
be
years.
higher,
to
could be
take-
lower.
Yes. I think that's the terms he used, was the average.
To me, it's just too high, especially
I
if
just-
the other ones are free.
I mean, I learned an awful lot, I still got to learn more. But are we just kicking the can down the road that we're eventually gonna have to do it anyway? And if that's true, why do we wanna spend
Correct.
$18,000 a year in maintenance, plus the decommission was $700 and some dollars? Am I remembering
Yeah, I was
that
up in
correctly?
that area, yeah. I was just jerking the pole out of the
And I
ground.
think that's.
So that's another $4,200.
Yeah, and we haven't budgeted for it, so I guess my thought is, don't do the maintenance thing, let them run their course. It might be this year, it might be 10 years from now when they die, and then we pay the money at that point, but then we can budget it ahead of time.
I thought there was something about you had to do it.
one or the, no, it's either do or die, July
You
1.
gotta-
So what were you saying, they don't flip the switch July 1st?
You gotta decide, are you gonna keep them or are you gonna give them the
Or,
county?
excuse me, January 1st, you said it's not a flip of the switch where,
The county needs to know by,
Right,
Like,
and
you know,
so, but they're not gonna
the
just
county
flip the
needs to
switch
know.
off, but as soon as they know we don't want them, ours may be the first to decommission, and they may start taking them
oh,
down.
okay.
We don't know when that will happen, but we could be last on the list, we could
But
be
it's not gonna
first
be
on the
10
list.
years, it's gonna be.
It's
probably
gonna
that.
be soon,
Yeah,
it's going to be soon.
But
if we decide to abandon the sirens, we better have a pretty good, advertising campaign explaining to the residents, here's the options.
yeah,
and here's-
download the app.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of
there's no
people won't, I mean, a lot of the elderly folks like myself, they won't mess with the app.
Yeah,
They'll- the iPad.
but they do get the iPods, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we can't control that, that's.
No.
I remember, one of the members at the SCAT meeting said they actually did a study and found that it would be cheaper to buy every single citizen a weather radio than it would be to keep the sirens. And then have every single person have a weather radio. Again, but we're plugging them in, so then
Yeah.
what? I mean,
But the other thing is, technology is so much different than these examples we've came up in the past. Everyone's got TV, everyone's got internet and stuff like that. Most people know when a storm's coming relatively anyway. It's not the same as 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. Like, everyone's got a computer in their pocket.
They don't always pay attention to it, they go
Sure.
up the front steps and watch it come.
Sure. I mean, you can make the argument with the sirens, that's your cue to walk outside.
It's my cue to walk outside.
I like to walk
I do.
outside.
Kids are screaming at me, telling me to get in the basement, and I'm
Yeah.
out there looking at the sky, where is
It's
it?
very rare that I can go to the basement, but point being is people know it's coming these days.
And some of the a township mentioned that they are going to be selective. They're not gonna say they're all gone, or they're gonna select certain areas to keep them, and not in other areas.
Which would then, say if we kept half,
So it's essentially 3,000 per siren.
if we kept half, then it would be half the bill.
Yeah.
So I mean, is the,
They were doing it by population.
okay, there's Orrock.
Where those red dots
The red
are.
dots are the sirens. So,
Is it fair to say the two around the lakes are the most populated areas? Because the one around Eagle Lake also encompasses the shores, the woods, and all that stuff.
well, we got three really close together
On the bottom, yeah.
on the bottom there. And I know that Brian and I were consulting at the meeting when we were all looking at the maps as a group, and from his place all the way to my place, we're hearing the same siren. The one that sits out there by Sand Dunes. Stop. Paul, you're probably hearing the one in the middle.
Right on the point.
Yeah.
Just short of the point,
Yeah,
yes.
you're
Okay,
hearing the
no
one in the middle of
question.
the screen.
I can
Yeah.
hear 3 different sirens where I'm at.
And you can hear 3
Given
different.
two are from Big Lake Township. but-
Oh, we don't want to rely.
Exactly.
Because we don't know if they,
That's what I'm- exactly, that's what I'm saying.
decommission, if they choose to decommission, we can't be sure that, you know, we're going to hear theirs.
Actually, it's 4.
Those two.
There's actually 4. 2 from us, 2 from
Right.
Big Lake.
Yeah, you're probably, yeah, you're probably hearing that one.
I think that, you know, obviously the area that has the smallest amount of coverage is out, further out, 75-4
I
out there.
can hear,
Yeah.
I can hear that one, and I think I can hear that one.
But, so, I don't
I-
think we need to make a decision tonight. We do have until July 1st, which as Shelley told me would mean that we would have to make a decision June.
May or June
And
meeting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
request that if we're gonna make a decision, that we not make it the next month's meeting, because I won't be here, I know that.
So you'd like us to push this
I'd
till
like to be a
June,
part of it to the June,
okay? And,
but be prepared.
but
to make it.
if you are ready to make a decision, someone can make a motion. We can,
What more information are we gonna get?
I don't
was gonna
know,
say,
I'm
I'm
at-
ready to make a motion.
they weren't at the meeting, so
Oh.
this is between you guys to have that conversation.
I'm ready to make a motion now, but if all of you think there's more information to,
No,
Yeah.
I just meant where I was gonna be here in May.
Yeah.
I would be like to hear the discussion when the
Yeah.
motion is made.
I'm ready to make a motion. I just wanna make sure there's not gonna be more information gathered, because if that's the case, I don't wanna make it.
There's no more.
I don't think the county's planning on
Okay.
No,
sending.
there's no more, there's no more information.
My motion is that we do not retain any of the sirens. We rely strictly on digital. Reason being is that it saves the township quite a bit of money. As Brian pointed out, it's a dying system that can't be repaired long-term. So my motion is we just pull out the Band-Aid now, we get rid of them, or let the county get rid of them, I guess. Because it's gonna be next year, correct, when the,
That's a really long one.
yeah, no, I'll
Let's
rescind.
let's get that, let's,
Okay, my motion is to not retain any of
I'll second that.
second, now,
them. Okay, discussion, sorry, I went straight into discussion.
that's okay.
The costs we're going to get with the decommission is all next year anyway, or further years, correct?
The cost,
Yeah.
it'll start January 1.
One.
For the cost of decommissioning.
If we keep them, we
Then
can
we
run
incur
them
the
till they
cost.
die. And when they die,
We have to pay the.
whether
decommission.
that's 2 months after we get it, or
But that's what I was asking
14
before.
years.
That's what I was saying, you guys said, no, they're gonna start decommissioning them right away. It's when they die.
No. If,
We keep it.
okay, I think he misunderstood.
Yeah.
If we keep them, it's our responsibility to maintain them and decommission them.
And we would decommission them at our choice.
Okay,
If we give them back to the county and say, nope, we don't want them, they're still gonna run them until they start decommissioning, which is coming very quickly.
so we don't even have to pay for decommission.
Correct.
No, if we give
If we
them
give it
back.
to the county.
Then even more so, my motion is we get rid of them now.
But
You can have that one, Greg.
we're not gonna add a even more than we're gonna stay
Yeah,
with your
yeah,
first.
correct.
Okay. I'm not adding that.
That's fine.
Okay,
My motion is to not retain them.
Effective January 1,
Correct.
27.
We need to do an ad campaign and let people know that after the first of the year, these may not be available.
so I think that, well, let's take a vote here, and then I would like to
Yeah,
pursue
that's a
that
good-
with you. I have an idea for you, Brian. All those in favor of not retaining the sirens?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carried. Oh, opposed, Peter. Did you want, vote's done, sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. I think you're right, and I do think that maybe we should think about, and we can have this, they're working this summer, so we're not concerned, but, an amount of money that we might want to put out for a mailer, for internet, for this, so we spend a little money to actually get it to the people.
My,
far,
sug-
far less.
my suggestion is not to do it till next.
Oh, I know.
March, April
Yep.
timeframe.
No.
We get to budget
No,
for
we wanna do it this fall.
This fall.
You wanna do it.
why
Let
we're not,
people know that it.
Because it
December,
starts
so you shut
January
down.
I
1.
know, we're not gonna have a tornado in January.
But there could be something else.
What else do we use the tornado sirens for?
Nuclear. Anymore? Not anymore?
No, we don't use it.
Do we use it for anything other than
Shut your mouth.
tornadoes? Because I'd be okay saying doing it in March or even February, but if you do it this fall, people are gonna forget.
I think it's better to do the prep work in the fall, maybe even before, Labor Day, so we get people that are around here for the summer, and then do it again in
I don't wanna pay
late
for 2
spring.
mailers though, Paul.
Pardon?
I don't wanna pay for 2 mailers, that's a lot.
I don't know, I mean, if it's a matter of, we have a newsletter, and then we say, it's on our website.
Sure.
But they keep emphasizing it's there.
Sure, but like we were talking before of doing like a direct mailer, I thought was the intention.
I threw that out,
Okay.
I said newspaper article, or ad, I said mailer, I
I
said
would love to have it in the newspaper multiple times.
heavy, Facebook
Yep,
presence. I mean, I think there's a couple ways we can approach this. It can be multi-tiered how we approach this.
I'd be
To get
okay
it
even
out there?
spending for a mailer.
So, yeah,
I agree with you on those, Paul, but if we're gonna do a direct mailer to houses, I think we only do it once and you do it right before tornado season
I'm just
starts.
saying, we start the educational process.
Yes, the cheaper or free options, absolutely, we start them. I agree.
That can be discussed later.
Yeah.
You got 9 months?
since this is a sooner than later type of thing, can we add this to the June meeting, Shelley, since Paul's not here in May?
Well, if the decision's been made,
No, about what type and when has not been made. The decision's been made to not do it, but not how are we gonna advertise? And you'd like to be part of that too? Or you don't care?
Yeah.
You care?
I've expressed,
Okay, all
I've
right.
expressed it,
We'll bring it back in May for discussion and June,
yeah.
if we don't get it resolved in May.
That's fair.
Okay?
Yeah, I don't think this is a one and done type
Okay.
thing.
No, I
think
think
it's ongoing.
I also, I would also, and I don't know where I saw it, and I will do some investigating myself, but if there's, maybe we can find ways to get either grants or other things for weather radios that we might be able to give out, or we might be able to get at a lower cost, if people would be interested in getting those. So, I mean, I've seen those out there before where you could get the, but we'll try to figure that out.
Mhm.
All right,
All of this stuff combined is gonna be cheaper than just 1 year maintaining them.
okay. All right,
Most definitely.
any further discussion or can we move on? All right, item number 8, planning and zoning. So you guys saw hold it up, Shelley, the packet from planning and zoning.
This is something else.
Oh, environmental regulations and building code outreach. They're working, oh, you guys can read.
It's just information.
Yep. So that information will be hung here on the bulletin board and inside our town hall
I put it on our website.
and our website. We thank you very much. The wetlands, building permits, shoreland handout. So this is all informational.
Yep.
A lot of times we get questions about these things, we need to remember that it is the county's issue. And please refer people to the county.
Now's the big one.
Now's the big packet, hold it up, the big packet. So that was what bulked down our agenda and our packet this time. As we've been hearing at multiple meetings, with, Dalton's been working on this, and they've been telling us it's coming. And this was the first full one that they sent us. Wasn't that difficult to read, it's redlined, it's highlighted, I mean, if you just scan through looking for the red lines and the highlights and some of that kind of stuff. Yes. Everybody have any, we have to make comments on subdivision ordinance update, the short-term rental ordinance update, and the zoning ordinance update. You wanna go and talk
I have
about
stuff
this?
about the short-term rental one, but I don't know if you're looking for anything.
I am open to, we have 3 township comment forms. If you'd like to, I can pass them out and you guys can write what you want on your, on the sheet. Or we can have a discussion about it.
Well, let me bring one up for discussion because I'm clear on it.
Okay.
It's, what's this? 7.1B, so it's the enforcement section of the short-term rental. It talks about the intentional false reporting of a violation. Is this for neighbors that are calling about the short-term rental and they're filing false?
Is this for the Airbnbs?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's
Airbnb.
kind of, it doesn't say it up front, but that's kind of what they're,
That's what I read it to be.
The intentional false reporting.
It's a-
That's, because then it says something about, this goes as one of the 3 strikes for the complaints. How is there 3 strikes when you're not the one that has the Airbnb? That's what threw me, because at first I thought it was clear as day that it's for someone who's calling in just because they
Your
don't
neighbor's
like,
calling in because they
'cause
don't
they
like the
wanna get-
bonfire.
because
Right.
they want to get it canceled.
Right. That's how I read it, but then,
That's how I read it too, and then I seen the 3 complaints. I think that's not accurate for one. The other thing is, I'll be honest, I think the fine is too little for the first offense. We have people that want to be out here to be left alone. And then they're gonna start calling on these just because they want it shut down. So to me, if there's a blatant false reporting, I think it should be higher than $100 right off the bat. When I first seen it, I seen like 250, 500, 1,000. Because I think it's unacceptable to be calling on someone intentionally trying to shut down their business like that.
okay,
Yeah,
I do.
can I steal your?
Go ahead. Did anybody else have any questions about, I read that the same way you did and then it went,
With a 3 strike thing.
Mhm.
So that's gonna be my other comment on here is to revisit that, does that make sense?
Yes. And that's the thing about all of these township comment forms, we don't have to agree to have it in the comment form. Each of us can put whatever we want, whether we all agree or not on the comment forms, because we're not voting, we're just making our comments. So, I don't-
ultimately goes to the planning commission and the county board.
Yep.
correct, correct. So it was my understanding, and I don't see it separated out here, but that the vet ordinance was coming back.
Wait, I did not receive it.
Okay, I think it's part of the, it is part of the packet though, the big one. They have it in the section where it talks about where you can have one, where you can't have one.
Yeah.
that-
That
Oh,
vet
vet,
clinic
oh,
thing's
oh.
coming back. In the grids where it talks about whether it's an IUP, CUP, urban district, there's mentions of it in here, but, do you know anything about that, Dalton, why we do or do not have it back in front of us?
Don't, I know Mark was redrafting it based on some of the comments that the zoning commission, had made, so my only guess is that he didn't get it in time to get it out to us. But I haven't heard anything on why it's not back to us.
Okay,
Because to me, they can't make a final decision without getting
back to us.
back to us. And there was, I don't wanna name names, but there was people on that board that were saying, hey, like, I wanna hear from my
People,
people again on this.
right,
So they were surprised it was on the agenda in April even, because they hadn't got a chance to opine on it a second time.
oh, you're talking about members of that board?
That board, yes.
Okay,
So I know if they try to push that forward without getting more township boards, they're gonna get pushed back from multiple people.
it's set for a public hearing
I don't
today.
see anything
Yeah.
on this.
Oh, it's back, it's further down in the,
Like, you sent us like a rundown of the changes, I put that on.
right, it's not a change, but it shows up in here on the grids where it never showed before. Okay, so, I guess we won't get ahead of it then. I mean, you can say it never came to us and.
We can, I can also give updates, we can have a conversation if we want.
Go right ahead.
So some of the main things they were talking about,
Do you wanna give a hit, you wanna
Sure,
back up and
sure.
explain why we're back for another time with
Yep.
this?
so the whole vet clinic thing is talking about what is the ordinance for vet clinics in Sherburne County, because we do not have an ordinance today. So someone who was running a vet clinic and wants to continue to do that, drafted one, asked the board to, or the department, zoning department to draft an ordinance. So they were starting with her recommendations on how to really get this as an ordinance. We've done multiple rounds with the zoning commission on giving our opinions and things like that. This last time, some of the bigger topics was 5 acres versus 10 acres, doing a containment area on whether you need a containment area or not. Is it possible to have a vet clinic where no animals stay overnight versus ones that stay overnight, because if they have to stay overnight, you have to have a containment area. And then also, do they want to do animal units? So how many horses can you actually have on the premises or not? So resident Felber, that's what he was talking about earlier, when he was talking about 5 acres, about it being too close, and that animals just can't, you can't expect a vet to run their clinic without having a containment pen, because they're inevitably gonna have somebody keeping an animal overnight, even if it's unexpected. So any thoughts on 5 acres versus 10 acres, I think is one of the biggest ones. Or containment.
So I already have submitted public comment to planning and zoning. So I'm gonna show you what my public comment was. And I'm going to allow you guys to do your own discussion.
Oh, and that does remind me now that I've seen this. We do have an ordinance for stables, and that is 10 acres minimum in the county. So
I'm sorry,
it's 10 acres minimum in the county for stables
in other counties.
in our county. So this ordinance, if it passed as drafted right now, would actually have a lesser acreage for vet clinics compared to horse stables.
Our board on these township comment forms twice have been fairly consistent.
That we've said 10. Just for folks' recollection, we said 10 for large, and we actually lowered the standards to 2.5. And I think there was differing opinions on the 2.5, on whether that's possible or not, but I think we were split there. In the past, we've all been
For
aligned.
small animals.
For small animals, so dog, cat, or reptile, that type of thing.
But what we didn't do was go through the ordinance, or the proposal.
Yeah, I think it's gotten bigger than just,
The board, my view is the planning board is being asked to get nitty-gritty on every detail, and they want to come back to their boards with the nitty-gritty.
So has the board got the planning and zoning from other counties besides just the 10 acres and all the other, and I'm gonna use your terminology, nitty-gritties, to compare?
so that's one thing that Mark had pointed out, is a lot of other counties don't have anything, so he couldn't start, it's not like a cookie cutter where he could just start it and copy it. He's trying to piece things together with like the stables and other ordinances to try to make sense for this. Everyone's agreed that a vet clinic is a needed thing. So everybody stacked hands on that. It's just getting to the nitty gritty on how small of a lot can this really be done on, and what are the extras like a manure plan to get rid of waste, do they need a containment pen? So something that the board has come up with is, hey, with how much we focus on wetlands, these don't belong in a shoreland district because of the manure plan. So again, that was something that everyone kind of stacked hands on, is that's not allowed in the shoreland district. I think the two biggest things right now are the 5 acres versus 10 acres, and then the containment. Like, is it feasible to run a vet clinic without someone keeping an animal there overnight, ever? Because if the answer is no, you have to have a containment pen. There's also been brought up that containment pens have to be 200 yards away from any border, and I did the math on that, you can't fit that into a 5 acre. Anywhere possible, even if you did a 1 foot by 1 foot, you cannot fit a containment pen on a 5 acre lot.
Is Mark looking at the veterinary ordinances or the veterinary requirements? I mean, take it from a veterinary's perspective on what they recommend for clearances and setbacks, and is he delving into that area?
It's been brought up during it because of,
Well, it's been brought up knowing Mark, but is he doing it?
that's what he's supposed to be doing this time around. It's something that was submitted to us from public comment about a Minnesota rule that's
No
200
offense
yards.
to Mark, but sometimes, Mark, you gotta look at this stuff.
That's why I made the comment during the meeting is, hey, we can't have a containment pen on a 5 acre. Based on Minnesota rule, if you wanna follow that setback, you cannot have a containment pen on a 5 acre. So really the question to everybody is it feasible to have a vet clinic that will never have overnight, I'll call them patients, but overnight patients?
Well, if he follows the guidelines of the veterinary society, he'll come to his own conclusion. But I mean, sometimes you gotta
Yeah.
force Mark to, come on.
So one problem we're getting is the applicant is a vet and she's saying, yes, I can do that. I don't have to have a containment pen. I will never have overnight. So we're getting pushback from both sides. I think it's hard to enforce that you would never have an overnight animal. How would we ever enforce that?
What do you know about it?
It's gonna be, you're gonna know about it from a neighbor. And we have multiple other times where we have contentious things from neighbors.
It should never
Are
be.
we really relying on them to enforce?
And the timetable for this, I'm trying to remember, was like, the public hearing is coming up, correct?
Well, now,
This
at
is-
the last meeting I listened to, they said there would be public hearing in May.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
And Mark was going to be getting it out to all the townships in order for the townships to then send back information, and then there would be a public hearing in May.
and that might be my fault of not interpreting correctly. When he said he'd get it out, maybe he meant just to the zoning commission. I took it as he was sending it so we could have township comment, and I think that's the people around me were thinking that was the case too, because they wanted to go back to their boards and talk about this. So I think at least the people sitting on the board were thinking, we're gonna have it for this meeting right here. That obviously hasn't happened.
So this, what I've already submitted to planning and zoning, taking the draft ordinance that's being written and compared it to our current comp plan and our current other ordinances. And there are 13 conflicts. And he's only mentioning 2,
Mhm.
but there's 13. So I don't think this is over, but I'm surprised Mark didn't get it out to us.
I'm surprised
Apparently
too.
Brian's not. Surprised. Okay.
My biggest issue with it, so I've tried to be a little bit neutral, now I'll say my biggest issue is, we can't rely on neighbors to enforce that there's not more than one animal on the property at any point and no overnight visits. Because if you have either of those two things, you have to have a containment. Because I brought up again during the meeting, what if people showed up at 8 AM and they had 8 people dropped off horses to be looked at throughout the day and then they show up after work? You'd have to have a containment pen there. And they said, well, that's not how it works, that we don't do it that way. But there's nothing saying that you couldn't, like, even if it's 2 people that show up, you now have to have a containment pen, and it's not physically possible to have a containment pen on 5 acres and follow Minnesota state rule.
You're not writing the ordinance for this particular applicant, you're writing the ordinance for anybody
Yes.
who applies.
Yes.
And I think that's been the difficulty, is that
It started there.
it started from the person wanting it for their property, which is why there's conflicts, right?
Mhm.
That's why there's conflicts.
All
So,
right.
what do you want him to say?
Yeah.
I guess my comment would be, this is nowhere near ready to even give comments to yet, other than it needs to be reworked.
And if I get something, if it's not sent to everybody, I will email it to Shelley, so Shelley can pass it around if we get something before the May meeting. But obviously, the
But we all
county
can't,
zoning,
but we all can't respond to you.
you can respond to Shelley, can't you? And Shelley can respond to Mark.
It won't move that fast, so.
That meeting's May 21st.
May 21st
Yeah.
is the public meeting?
Yep. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I send these off, any township comment on the zoning ordinance update or the subdivision ordinance update? Okay.
The only one I have is what I brought up, the short-term rentals.
Thank you. Okay. Bar Haunted Acres driveway request.
He did not show up and he did not bring any more information, so
Moving on.
As far as the second driveway.
yeah. I asked him, okay, where do you want to put it? Or do you have some paperwork? Are you going to attend the meeting? And he didn't answer me, so.
All right.
All right, moving
Explain
on.
that problem.
Well, and on a road tour,
I was gonna say, we've seen it on the road tour, and I put a
and there
fence
was
up.
concerns about parking on the road.
Yeah.
And if I got it
I
correctly, when you look at the parking, they're
Yeah.
parking side by side at the same
I was gonna
place,
say, can we go back?
on the bottom
Because
there.
what we were thinking here on the road tour is that he would shift this inside, but he's, like you said, they're side by side, so he's intentionally having people park in that,
In the ditch?
in the ditch, and then there's a fence here
Yeah.
for these, so I imagine he's gonna want the driveway here to drive through, but if you're parking in the ditch there, it's exactly what we were trying to get away from before.
It's gonna fill in a drainage.
Well, drainage is a pretty steep ditch.
It's
Yeah.
too steep, you're gonna have problems there.
They're
Nope.
not gonna be able to park in cars either.
But if he
Yeah.
didn't show up, then it.
Exactly, but I just want to point out, to your point, Paul, yes, we talked about that on the road tour. I just figured we should probably have that here, since we talked on the road tour and
And there was concerns
We should-
about light.
coming in there, that's, I think, I'm
And
assuming that's why he put the
I
fence
looked
up.
at
Yes,
the,
that's what he said.
I looked at the map, and the driveway with the location would make a big difference.
It would,
But
but unless
he's
he's
not
here,
here.
yeah.
We're gonna move on.
Okay,
So he's a no-show. Spring road tour, discussion.
Well, we had a very successful road tour on Saturday. We did find a few little holes and potholes that need to be filled in, so, Dalton is filling out the
I just saw that.
he's filling it out on the Excel, and he'll pass that on to me, and then we'll get started on getting bids for pothole repairs and the tree trimming and shoulder work and everything that needs to be done. But all in all, our roads are looking fairly decent. I mean, we got a few roads that are gonna need some addressing.
You're, you know, looking at it on the road tour for, I don't know, 12, 14 years, and I've seen the deterioration of the roads. They're in pretty good shape yet, but I, again, encourage this board to continue that levy for the road and bridge fund, because we're gonna be needing it. And some of the roads we're looking at now, they're gonna be expensive repairs.
Was there ever a thought we weren't gonna levy for?
Or 3%, I think, our plan shows a continuing a 3% levy increase for the road and bridge. Sometimes with pressure from the public, we get weak need. But I think it's important that we keep that road and bridge at 3%, otherwise we're gonna pay more down the road.
It's a good reminder, so when we were doing the finance committee, we took that into account and kept that, but it is a good reminder. It's also a good reminder of what happened with the fire stuff. I think that's probably what you're trying to avoid, is having a giant spike out of nowhere.
I'd like to avoid giant spikes everywhere,
Yes.
across the board, like,
Yeah.
let's be as good as we can with our money. Street sweeping, discussion.
Daryl, in the past, we've spent $5,000 on street sweeping. This year, he's requesting $8,000 because of the added product we used in some other areas. So I'm looking for a motion to approve for $8,000 for
I
Daryl.
second your motion, Pete.
Okay.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? I wasn't on the road tour, so I didn't see any of this. But, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I ask, when do you think that he's gonna start doing that, because people have been asking?
I'll call him tomorrow and let him know that we approved it, so I'm sure he'll get right on it probably either this week or next week.
Okay. Is it possible that you'd be able to get a firm date from him and give it to Shelley, so when she gets calls, she'll be
Okay.
able to tell them?
It's 3,000 you're adding to it, or 8,000 you're adding?
3,000.
3,000, it was a total of 8,000.
And if we can get, they will start approximately at, on our website, it might save Shelley a little bit of
Phone calls.
phone calls.
Okay.
Okay. C, 2 sinkholes on 181st Street, discussion.
We have 2 sinkholes that need to be done, and Daryl would like to start on them this spring, so they got time to settle and everything. I'd like to, in the past, we've done 15,000 per hole. I talked to Daryl, he says that would be sufficient.
These are gonna be bigger holes.
These are gonna be bigger holes, but if we can do 15,000 per hole, you know, we've come in under budget in the past
On all of them?
on,
Yeah, 12, 14,
I
somewhere.
was gonna say,
These
there
are
was
gonna be
one that was bigger than
There was one, I thought. was
But I
bigger
don't-
than-
No, there's 2.
No, that we.
Bigger than,
that it came
we had
bigger
to
than
come
we
back and
thought.
give more money.
Oh,
I don't know if we still hit the 15,000.
Once they got into it, they
There was
figured out.
one.
Yeah, there was one, but did it hit the 15,000?
I don't,
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
last year's, he did not. Last year's, he came
Okay.
in well under budget for those.
I think they all came in under budget, but one was still, we thought it was gonna be like 7, came in at 14 or something like that.
So-
If we're gonna authorize money, I'd recommend we spend, or authorize 35,000, that gives them some cushion.
Are you trying to do these in one,
These will be 2,
2 sinkholes, one motion?
No,
Just a reminder,
I'd
we,
be at 25,000 a year, I think, all right?
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was
That's what I
asking
was
if you
saying.
want to separate that per hole,
Per hole, yeah.
per hole,
17,500.
let's say 17.
17,000 per hole, okay.
they're not anywhere close enough to be the same job, correct? Just the 2 sinkholes.
They're on the same
Because they're-
street.
They're on the same street, but it's not like they can
No,
connect into
no.
each other to
No,
ever be
there's
considered
one
one
on
job.
one end and one over here, so there's,
Even on opposite sides. of it.
I'm
Yeah.
just looking for optics
Oh, you
reasons of,
moving 17,000 per hole?
I thought- Yes,
I'll second.
Any discussion?
just pointing out, we budgeted 30,000 for this. That's fine, but I'm just pointing.
Budgeters are best, is your best guess.
Yep, I'm just saying. I'm
Oh,
fine.
so you're just reminding
just
us
wanted
that
to
we're
be
already
reminded.
4,000 over.
Correct, I just want to throw it out there, I'm not saying it's gonna cost us and that we're going over, I just bring it up to finance committee, we budgeted 30,000, if that influences anybody's decision.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Weight limit signs on 233rd, the sheriff referenced this. So I got a call while Pete was out of town. And the reason I got the call was because the DNR was down there and they're like, Pete's out of town. I know Officer Petrosky, or Deputy Petrosky, and I know Trent from the DNR. Petrosky's the weight guy, the scales guy for Sherburne County. And they're like, who do we got? We got this stuff from the DNR, who do we call? Call Ann, I know her, here's her number. So that's why I got the call. The documents are in here, they're in here.
It's a 10-ton road, so we don't need signs, so the problem
Yeah,
goes
and
away.
I talked to Kevin also, and I got the information from him. All this work was completed. We that's the receipt for the state
Grant.
funds, the grants. This is more information about it. And we do not need a resolution or signage for this road because any road that doesn't have a sign specifying otherwise is automatically defaulted to a 10-ton weight limit. And so we don't even have to put up signs.
Were you guys aware of this? Did you know this?
Yeah, 10-ton road, yeah.
Oh, you knew that?
Yeah.
He wasn't here.
He wasn't here for that
Oh, you weren't here
meeting.
that meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Disregard. Board business and updates, committee reports. Adams,
Nothing.
Ellinger.
Nothing.
I did the SCAT, and I have had just a ton of phone call meetings. What I just described, issues, small, tiny issues that have been pretty much a couple times a week. But all of them we have discussed in this room tonight. Owen?
I did the spring road tour last weekend with the group, and then this coming Friday, me and Supervisor Adams have a meeting with Becker Township on 243rd, so I'm looking forward to that, so hopefully we can get somewhere on that.
Only 18 months in the waiting for that,
Well,
so
I can
way to
tell you-
go. I hope you make it happen.
I know Becker Township they've been expressing, they've been grumpy about that too.
Good.
It's a little sore subject on them, but
Good.
that's all for me.
Ketterling?
After the road tour, someone else reached out to me. There is a dead-end sign on 233rd Avenue that is completely covered by trees. So they're asking if we can add it to our list. So I can let
For
Peter
tree
know.
trimming?
Yeah. So Peter's either gonna check it out or just authorize it. It's up to him.
I don't think that's gonna throw us over budget
I don't think so.
for the one dead end sign. Okay.
See, did you find that road, that one that was sent to me? That pothole that was sent to me?
On the road.
I'm working on that. That's on my list of things to look in. It's been a busy week.
All right, treasurer, number 11, treasurer's business, cash control statement and investment update. We'll need to approve.
With the cash control statements, you can see where each of the checking, debit card, money market, CD, and foreign funds, and where our balances are right now. The interest, the C-test is balancing up to what we have in our checking and bank accounts. And then with the investment, yeah, that one. Now that I combine them all together. With that, I'm asking, with the debit card, I'm asking to actually transfer money back to the checking account because it ended up somehow over. I'm not sure if payments and stuff were paid through that channel of me making those transfers. But we are now over the $2,000 limit in that one, so I'm looking to remove that and bring it back down to the $2,000 mark.
Is that gonna require a special trip up to do that, or you're gonna do
I
it
do it
electronically?
I do it online.
Because we could turn right around and then have to transfer it back next month. It's a minimum balance, it doesn't say,
No, I'm just trying to continue with what it was, so
okay, that's,
that was all. Otherwise, I can leave it there, it don't bother me any, but,
it's just some more bookkeeping that.
Yeah, just leave it where
I
it
think
is.
just leave it.
okay. Then, the request to transfer on the bottom will be adjusted to that difference of the 392.18. So,
So I'd be looking for a motion to approve this with the adjustments that we do not request to transfer the 392.18.
So we.
Paul, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Dalton, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to B, treasurer's report approved.
So there's where you're gonna see what each of the funds and stuff are sitting at, where we're balanced and stuff that way for each one of our funds, what we're, our beginning and ending balances. Anybody have any questions with that? And then you also have the detailed report in your packet.
Is there any questions about this? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Dalton, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C is a report of Sherburne State Bank Securities Pledge Validation. This is not need approval, it's just for review.
And that you can see that we are still covered even with our additional amount yet in the CD. The securities and stuff are still covering that.
Okay, any questions? No. I forgot during my board business and updates, Madam Clerk, did you still want me to discuss the limits for your ability to purchase?
No, I got that taken care of.
All good?
Yeah.
All right. Disregard. Announcements then, Madam Clerk.
May board meeting, Wednesday, May 27th at 7:00 PM. Recital day is Saturday, May 16th, 8 AM to 12 PM. The Town of Big Lake Maintenance Building, Township Legal Seminar is June 25th, 2026. In Albertville City Hall, League of Minnesota Cities Annual Conference is in Rochester this year, June 24th through 26th. And the DNR has begun to prescribe burns in the Sherburne National Wildlife Refuge. And if anybody wants more information, there's the information there. And I also put it on our website.
Is there anybody else going on the 25th?
I am.
I am.
Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Peter, second?
Second.
Non-debatable, motion carries.
My big question is, there are two dates up there, this is July 1st.
Let me see, I'm sorry.
July 1st.